This is Mark from the Touch 'Em Up podcast. How you doing?
Doing well. How about you?
I'm doing good. Coming into the 2022 season, a lot of people will say that they've made vast improvements every camp, and that's kind of the deal with mixed martial artists. Is every camp you sharpen up your skills. If you had to pinpoint one area of your game that you feel you've sharpened up the most from last season to this season, what do you think is your biggest improvement coming in here?
I would say my jiu-jitsu alone. After last season, I basically did a lot of grappling, a lot of jiu-jitsu. I did the no-gi worlds for IBJJF and won that and got my black belt in October. And so I focused a lot on that, let my body heal up from last season and just kind of regrouped with, grappling and kind of got a lot better with that. And a guy back home, Dante Leon, he's one of the pound for pound best guys in grappling right now. He's only 2 hours from me. So we did a lot of training together, a lot of cross training. He would come down and train with us at Matt Brown's gym in Columbus a lot. So in my time away from actual fight camp, I would say that I made the most improvements in jiu-jitsu.
Awesome, Lance. Awesome, Lance. And when it comes to grappling, like you said, you did the no-gi worlds. Like that's a different world compared to MMA. But do you feel like it's almost imperative for a lot of fighters at the highest level to do those grappling tournaments on the side when you're waiting for, your next fight to get announced or a fight camp to start? Do you think it's like very important to do that, waiting to get your next fight?
I think everybody's different. I mean, some people just like to take time off completely, or some people just go in the gym and hit the bag or hit mitts, or just, everybody has their own thing that helps them, with coping with a loss or whatever it may be. Or for me, it was just, I wanted to get back into training and not have too much banging up on my body. So I kind of just got right back into it. And it was kind of like my buddies from back home. There's a couple black belts in Columbus who were like, hey man, we're all doing the no-gi worlds, but I think you should do it. Cause I go in and help those guys with wrestling, and we would work on jiu-jitsu together. And I was like, I'll think about it. So it was kind of like a month out from the no-gi worlds when I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And I was brown belt at that time. So I competed at brown belt, and my original jiu-jitsu coach, Dustin Akbari, was there. And he knew I was competing. So he basically was like, man, if you win this thing, I'll give you your black belt on the podium. So that was kind of like an added benefit, because I'd been a brown belt for like 5 years, but I don't really compete in jiu-jitsu itself or IBJJF anyway. So that was kind of an added incentive for me. It was like, man, I feel like I'm a black belt grappler, but never really got awarded my black belt. So I felt like that was just something to keep my mind in a, kind of tunnel vision and focus on something and focus on a new accomplishment. So I think it was good, but I don't think everybody needs to do, outside competitions. I think it is great for it. I think it helps your jiu-jitsu. It helps just the competitive mindset because it's not a fight, right? So you go into it, things can happen, like you can, break a bone or you can hurt a joint and stuff like that. But as far as like, you're not getting hit in the face, and you can work and compete and still enjoy, traveling and going to these competitions. So I think jiu-jitsu is kind of the safest way to do that, I guess you could say.
Thank you, Lance. Thank you for your time, and best of luck in this season.
Thank you.
Max?
How you doing, Lance? This is Max Going from the Going Live Network. Really appreciate you taking the time. Just a quick question here. Obviously, you're facing Chris Wade, a guy who went to the finals last year. Does it give you any extra motivation knowing you're going against a really gamed opponent for the first fight of the year?
Not really. I mean, I'm excited to fight this year. This year's a lot different from last year as far as the scenario we're in, and the no quarantine and all that stuff that we went through last year. I think it's a lot of people are more motivated just in general to get back in the cage and have kind of a more normal life leading into the fight, with fight week only being a regular fight week and stuff like that. Chris has always been a tough opponent. Even when he was at 55, he was one of the more exciting guys in that division. And even though he never won it at 55, he was really close a couple times. And I think he even had like a split decision loss in the semifinals one year. So, I mean, he very well could have been a champ at 55 before he dropped down to 45. So he's always been one of those guys that's on the radar as a game opponent. So having this fight as the first fight of the season is, I mean, this is a finals fight. Even though it's only 3 rounds, I feel like this is a fight that could be treated as a finals fight anyway. So, you know, we're just getting paid a lot less than what we would for the finals.
No, absolutely. And then just to kind of piggyback off that last statement you made about the pandemic, obviously you're a 2-time champ. Coming off the quarantine, the pandemic, now you're back into a regular flow. Can you just talk about the differences between last year and this year going into the season?
Everything, basically. I mean, I could go into every detail, but it was just so different. I mean, like outside of a lot of personal things, like family things and stuff like that went on. I mean, being in a quarantine, like all my coaches are like real life people. They have their own families. They have their own gyms or businesses that they run. They're not people who could sit for 17 days in a hotel room with me just for my fight. So I was, during the 17-day quarantine, I was by myself and just did my own thing. And luckily, one of my old teammates who was in the season last year, Tyler Diamond, he was by himself also. And we just made the best of it. We drilled with each other. We trained with each other every day. But it's not the same as having your coaches there. And some of the guys did. I mean, there's, I know Bubba had his head coach there and one of his training partners there for 17 days. And that makes a huge difference because you still get those hard goes and you still get your mitt work with your coach. You still get the people overseeing you and just the camaraderie. Like this fight week has been so different with having Coach Casey and Eddie Baracco here with me and just having your coaches with you, being able to go, you know, grab coffee in the morning. And we went to the stockyards on Sunday and just enjoyed time walking around the city. Like that's what the whole point of, you know, making these trips and making memories is being able to take little memories from the city leading into the fight and stuff like that. That's stuff I've always enjoyed doing. So last year it was a lot different. It really mentally, it made me not want to be there when I was fighting. And I think a lot of people saw that. So, you know, this is a completely opposite of what last year was, honestly.
And then just one last one for me. With that being said, are you confident that you will be taking home this year's gold?
100%. I mean, you can't guarantee that you're going to win, but I can guarantee that I'm fully prepared mentally and physically. So I'm excited, but it's only one fight at a time. Just like the first 2 seasons I won, I focused on the very first fight. Like, I don't even know who I would fight second. So I'm focused on Chris Wade and getting that win, and then we'll move on from there.
No, definitely one step at a time. I really appreciate the time. Good luck this season.
Thank you.
Dylan?
Hey there, Lance. I appreciate you making some time.
Thank you.
I'm just curious, I saw that picture a few days ago of you working with Cody Stamen, Dan Ige, Cody Garbrandt. Like, who would you credit as like the main training partners leading into this particular fight?
It's kind of tough because I've had so many great training partners throughout this camp. I mean, there's people like I mentioned before, Dante Leon. He's really great grappler, and he's a little bigger than I am. And somebody that I've been training with for over a year now back home, he's from the Toledo, Ohio area. He was out in Vegas for TJ Laramie's UFC fight. So I trained with him a couple Fridays ago. We had a good group together. He came out a couple weeks before that for the ADCC trials. As far as sparring goes, I mean, everybody at Extreme Couture has helped. Johnny Nunez has been a great sparring partner. I've sparred a little bit with Rafael Stotts. I've sparred with, obviously, all the guys that you mentioned in that photo. That was after our sparring and grappling session. So getting all these different looks and different bodies, different speeds, different weights, everybody has a different skill set. So, I mean, I'm pretty much ready for anything when it comes to it. I mean, we've watched plenty of film on Wade, but I feel like you spar different people and get those different styles and speeds, and everybody has something a little bit different, even if someone's similar in style. So I feel like there's countless people at Extreme that have helped me out throughout this camp.
And obviously you're quite familiar with the PFL's like tournament kind of structures as of now, but just how important is it to have that like, you know, points minded kind of thing that determines the next bouts as like a device to like really squaring your focus on the individual fights? I imagine that would give a level of relief, just being able to streamline your focus.
I think the points-based thing is great, but this fight is one of those fights where it's basically like a win or go home, I feel, because going into your second fight with the win is way more important than, in this scenario with it being me versus Chris. I think it's a win or go home type of deal, because you go into the second fight, yeah, you could get a 6-point finish or something like that, but focusing on this first fight and getting this first win really sets the momentum no matter how many points you get.
For sure. Thanks so much for the time and insights, man.
Thank you.
Last question, Tudor, please.
Hello, sir. It's Tudor for short.com. You're one of the PFL OGs, and you witnessed the promotion's evolution over the years. Do you miss the one-night tournament?
Yes, I do. I think it was a great format, and that was kind of what PFL was built on, the 2 fights in one night, win and move on type of style. I think this is, I wish it would have gone back to that now that the pandemic is over, and that was kind of the original reasoning for it from what I've heard. But 2 fights one night, the 8-man tournament, I mean, that was really what PFL was built on. And I know this is a different structure, and this feels more like the Bellator Grand Prix, where you kind of fight, your way through the year in a different way, where the 2 fights in one night was more of a Grand Prix style of like pride style fighting, and you had to win and go in the back and get ready for your second fight. And I think that was more of a grind, to be honest. This is more of, you have these 2 fights, and then you fight one fight in the semifinals, then you fight the finals. And it's just, I mean, it's a little different. Obviously it's one less fight. But also the 2 fights in one night, it's just mentally, it puts you in a different place. I think it makes you better as a fighter to be able to go through that. And even if you only went through that one time in your entire fight career, I think it's really cool. And I think it's a great concept, and I thought it was very unique. So I was very surprised when they got away from that.
You said that you watched much film on Wade. Do you expect anything unusual from him going into this fight?
He may bring some different things to the table for sure. I mean, his last fight was last October, so there's definitely plenty of time to bring new things. You can work on new things during a fight camp leading up to that fight within 8 weeks and work on some different stuff. But I feel like the bread and butter and meat and potatoes of his game will be similar to what we have seen. But that's what fighting's all about. You have to be ready for anything, even if you prepare for one certain style of fight.
Thank you very much for your time, sir. Best of luck for this season.
Thank you.